meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Austin for September 25th, 2018. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, Republic, God.
Councilmember Shaw.
Present.
Councilmember DeTore.
Present.
Councilmember Wilcher.
Present.
Councilmember Feldman. Supervisor Levenberg.
Here I am. So we start this meeting off with 3 public hearings. The first of which is about regulating the use of leaf blowers, proposed local law number 4, which we have been discussing for some time now. Most recently today, we received comments from our Environmental Advisory Committee, which I would like to read into the record because I do not believe anybody is here from that committee. Okay, so we received these comments actually September 23rd. They were dated. Dear Supervisor Levenberg, the Town of Austin Environmental Advisory Committee has reviewed the proposed ordinance regulating use of leaf blowers within unincorporated town, local law number 4, dated August 27th, 2018. The committee supports the actions taken by the town to regulate the use of leaf blowers, thereby reducing a significant amount of air and noise pollution in the town. The EAC has identified 3 issues of concern regarding the proposed law. 1, exceptions section. 2, safety provisions. 3, alternative approaches. This committee would like to offer the following recommendations to address these 3 areas of concern. 1, exceptions, reference section 2B2. The EAC recommends the removal of this section regarding exceptions for individual lots exceeding 1 acre in size and for municipal and school properties. Regulating the use of leaf blowers for large properties will help to significantly reduce noise and air pollution, which is the primary reason for implementing this town ordinance. Moreover, large properties such as schools and town parks should also be regulated, as these locations are areas where children are present and their exposure to fuel, noise, exhaust emissions, and dust pollution may be significantly reduced. The town has the opportunity to lead by example. It was mentioned at the town board meeting on August 28th that the town utilizes mulch mowers, which further supports a town leadership role. The EAC encourages the town to continue to take a proactive stance to minimize leaf blowing pollution. 2, safety. We suggest that a clause be added stating that leaf blowers may be used for safety reasons during prohibited times, i.e. all year round, for the purpose to clear driveways and walkways. 3, alternative approaches. The EAC also suggests additional wording to the regulation to encourage the use of mulch mowers, grass catchers, traditional brooms and rakes, as well as any other safe, pollution-free gardening tools to offset the restrictions on leaf blowers. We thank you for this opportunity to comment and advise the town board on this proposed environmental legislation. Yours truly, Mitzi Elks, Chairperson, Environmental Advisory Committee. Okay, and now, is there anybody here to address the board on local law number 4, regulating use of leaf blowers? Please state your name, and we're going to try to limit comments to about 3 minutes
I got
each.
about 1 minute.
Okay.
So I just want to.
So you're just your name and address, please.
Judy Carton, 10 Hudson Watch Drive. The first time we were here, we were talking about the time period in which leaf blowers, because leaves don't fall and whatever. Okay, I just want to give you folks a picture. It's the same picture. I made 3 copies of September 18th, which was 2 weeks ago, and our landscaper took a picture. We asked him to. And the leaves down here to calendars, and we're, as you know, a big property with lots of beautiful trees that leaf all the time, and that's just to show you the density of the leaf issue with trying to clear 15 acres all over with leaves. So we enter that into your evidence.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there anybody else here to address the board?
Donna Sharrett, 84 Morningside Drive. It is not reasonable to impose the ban to certain residents and or entities and not others. I am strongly opposed to the exceptions as currently listed in 130-71B2 and ask that the board to consider changing this to this provision does not apply to cemeteries or to the cleanup of any impervious surface areas when leaf blowers are used at half speed. What are the negative impacts of leaf blowers? 1/2 hour use of a 2-stroke engine leaf blower produces the same hydrocarbon emissions as driving a Ford F-150 truck 3,887 miles. Using a leaf blower for 5 minutes is equal to driving that same truck 648 miles, the distance to Wilmington, North Carolina. Breathing the high levels of hydrocarbons and pesticides, fertilizers, and animal droppings, and whatever else is blown into the air by leaf blowers is hazardous. Leaf blowers, which have a velocity of up to 165 miles per hour, blow away essential organic matter from the soil surface and leads to soil compaction, which facilitates stormwater runoff, negatively impacting our waterways and river. Grass clippings and ground up leaves left in place provide nutrients and creates more resilient and drought-tolerant lawns. Mulch mowing during leaf season would save tax dollars. How much money is spent on leaf collecting and carting? I've asked that before. The big picture, long-term human existence, is in part compromised by the fallacy that our properties need to be cleaned to the point of irreversible damage to our environment and our health. The New York State Extension soil scientist who is studying Ken and my lawn flew to the Carolinas yesterday to assist with livestock composting. Millions of livestock died during Hurricane Florence. It is perhaps unknowable how many pets and wildlife also died during that storm. A storm intensified in size and duration by rising sea levels and warming ocean temperatures as a direct result of climate change. It is imperative that we make immediate, substantial changes that will reduce our contribution to climate change. Limiting leaf blower usage is a meaningful, responsible measure towards this goal. Thank you.
Is there anybody else here to address the board on the proposed leaf blower legislation?
Hello, my name is Ken Camber. I live at 84 Morningside Drive. I've been using a mulching mower now for about 4 years. I bought it locally at an Ossining lawnmower company. Salesman did a great job selling it to me, and he lived up to that sales pitch. We have our house has a lot of trees, a 90-year-old oak tree. This mulching mower just takes whatever I was collecting and putting out on the street, no longer have to deal with just by mowing the lawn. And so I really don't see what the issue is. It removed, like, it's such a common sense approach to dealing with your landscape if the town is really interested in being a green town. So,
What do you do about the acorns that dropped from that oak tree?
we have a bunch of squirrels. So we have a little squirrel fest going on. But yeah, they get ground up also. You know, whatever's in the litter. When there is a whole bunch, I do collect them and I put them in the back and I end up mulching them.
Okay, do they fall on your
They fall.
pathways or anything like that? Because
Yeah,
I know
I
I
use a
get
broom.
people who are.
I use a broom. You know, using a high-powered leaf blower is not going to solve it. You know, you're just moving it somewhere else. Where are you moving it to? Right?
Well,
Well, you're
I mean, you're
putting it in
moving
the
it with a
street,
broom
right?
too. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I collect them and I put them in the back and I mulch them. Yep, and the birds like it. It creates a habitat for the birds.
Thank you.
Ingela Rodriguez, 69 Morningside Drive. We also got
You just put the microphone up a little tiny bit.
we also got a mulch mower 2 years ago. I used to be the queen of leaves. I used to drag out a lot of leaves down to the street. And after we bought the mulch mower, we haven't put any leaves out by the street. And in fact, 2 years ago, the highway department guys asked me, "Where are all your leaves?"
All right.
Yes.
Just could you state your name and
Alex
address or
Malone,
business?
11 Birchbrook Road, Austin. Last time I brought up, it is one. Leaf blowers are
Just
used.
stay a little closer.
Leaf
Thank you.
blowers are used for one particular thing that everybody's here is worried about. But again, I'm a licensed pest control provider that we do mosquito and tick services. That the backpack blowers that we use, there's a leaf blower, but it's got a tank to it. Unfortunately, there is no battery packed tank that we can use to apply pesticides on people's lawns at this time. So again, I want to reiterate to the board that the technology has not caught up to this law, and we are still, you're going to be hamstringing not just landscapers, but exterminators, things that actually, that generate for, for the health benefits of this world. I really just want you guys to keep that in mind. There is no other alternative for my profession when we're dealing with lawns and bushes and shrubs and low trees in regards to putting down a chemical or a pesticide to prevent them from, eating all these beautiful bushes that I'm assuming that people have, and then attacking us. Lyme's disease, West Nile. I mean, real impacted diseases, not just a little noise that's coming from my, from my neighbor's yard. The reality to it is that I understand this law and I get it. There should be a time frame that you should be able to use these types of equipment, including lawnmowers. And nobody wants to hear someone getting their lawn mowed at 7 o'clock in the morning, or hearing leaf blowers going on at 7 o'clock in the morning. But if you give a responsible time frame that you're allowed to use such equipment, that'll help in regards to the noise pollution that people are, some people complain about and whatnot with these machines. So when you're thinking about that, I mean, a time bracket is better than nothing for people that make their money, servicing the community. I just like to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marco Gonsalves, 19 McCarthy Drive. Not only am I a homeowner, taxpayer of the town of Ossining, I also operate a large landscape company. Leaf blowers kind of get grouped into a bad grouping. Just they think it's leaves and you only use it for leaves. But to be honest, we use it for 100 other things between just cleaning walkways and, we say noise and pollution and it's bad for the environment. And we want to allow it to be used on schools and parks, which blows my mind. If those are really the main issues that you guys are going after. To reiterate what he said, we use a backpack blower that has a tank on it, and we actually spray an organic pesticide, cedar oil, to get rid of ticks and mosquitoes, which are disease-carrying insects, which harm the public. So my question to you guys is, what do you plan on doing about that? If we can't control ticks, when someone says a leaf blower, you don't need to use it for leaves and blah, 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 that's all well and good. But the second someone says, oh, I got a tick bite and I have Lyme's disease, it's, well, let's take care of that problem. So I think you guys are grouping this all together and you're going to affect it in a much bigger way that I don't think everyone is seeing. And same thing, we apply fertilizers and weed controls, and the pellets bounce onto impervious surfaces that need to be blown off. So I don't really see there's been a study that actually using a broom takes 8 times longer than a leaf blower to clean off a driveway or walkway, whatever it may be. So unfortunately, that extra time is going to get trickled down to all the homeowners, which is going to cost them a lot more money to maintain their properties. That's all I got to say.
Can I, Marco, quick question? Do you only do work in Ossining, or do you work in other municipalities?
We work in a lot of municipalities. We work all the way from New Rochelle to Rye to Monroe, New York, up to Wappingers.
What do you do in the other municipalities that have leaf blower legislation in place?
I don't work there. We've actually walked away from accounts that we do a lot of work in Greenberg, and we've never had a blower issue. And I know they have a blower ban. We have 60 homes we do there and never had an issue with it. The day that comes where there will be an issue, either our prices will increase right to the customers, or we'll just probably walk away from all those accounts.
Thanks. Anybody else?
Good evening. Susie Ross. I represent Green Ossining. I also live at 56 Sherwood Avenue. If I could start by just asking a quick show of hands, who here believes in climate change? Thank you. that climate change is actually real and that it is caused by human activity. Show of hands, please. We know that leaf blowers are important in our community. Heard from some people that use them. It's part of their job, their livelihood. But we do also know that leaf blowers provide a heavy carbon footprint. They're a major air and noise pollutant, and they have devastating impacts to soil, plants, and watersheds. Green Austining is in favor of the legislation that you're proposing to pass. Some exemptions, I believe, that were mentioned with regard to the EAC's recommendations, we also agree with. But I would also say that I would exempt the cemeteries, as I understand that there might be a case for those because of the small area surface. It's very difficult to mow in there. I think we would allow for usage by, the usage by the municipality and schools year-round for impervious surfaces for safety issues, but again, using only half power, which is what I believe Donna Sherrod had recommended. And also for landscapers on impervious surfaces, only to clear such things as fertilizers, again at half power. Perhaps there should be other exceptions made based on what other communities are doing. But in addition to that, I would also say that schools and municipalities included in the as a non-exemption, because it's only 4 months out of the year that we are talking about based on the time frame that you're recommending. So for 4 months out of the year, and to this resident here that had shown you pictures of the leaves, we are a week away from the September 30th period of time when this would actually go into law. Those leaves could be mowed. They don't have to be blown at this particular point in time. And if you do believe in climate change, yes, there's no, trees are not paying attention to what time of the year it is. And we have to do everything that we can to try to mitigate or reverse what damage we've done with the human activity that we've imposed on our planet so far. And on that note, which I'll circle back to in a moment, I want to remind everyone that we would not be making any bold moves in passing this legislation. We would be only the 15th community in Westchester County. I will name some of them for you so that everyone is aware that this is not Austining on a cutting edge, wave of greenness here, but I would be so proud if we could do something like this. So we would be joining Bronxville. Now, some of these are a little bit more of a higher average income than we have here, but they do represent some communities with socioeconomic diversity such as ours. Bronxville, Dobbs Ferry, Hastings on Hudson, Larchmont, Mamaroneck, Scarsdale, New Rochelle, which also includes electric, by the way, Pelham, Rye, which also includes electric, Sleepy Hollow, Terrytown, Tuckahoe, White Plains, and Yonkers, which has been banning these since 2006. So very quickly, because I see I've got the hand, a leaf blower ban would reduce our use of fossil fuels, create safer conditions for those exposed to both the noise and the air pollution that affects not just those using them, but those in surrounding areas. Organic matter, soil fertility, and plant health are intrinsically linked, and turning carbon into life, which would happen if we allowed or requested that as part of this people began to mulch. A ban would encourage that leaf mulching, which is practiced throughout Westchester County. So to those who believe that climate change is real, that our planet is getting warmer, that human activity has caused much of it, if not all, and that it is not the activity of one or a few that can mitigate or reverse it, but the collected effect of our communities acting, we must do all we can on our part and not leave it for someone else. That's selfish and short-sighted. We need everyone, everywhere, doing everything all the time as quickly as possible to save us. So please pass this legislation. Thank you.
Just one quick question, Susie. Does Green Austining have an opinion about the blowing of the organic
The pesticides?
pesticide?
Well, thank you for mentioning that, or asking that at least. We have been running a campaign on pesticide-free lawns. I don't want to put anybody out of business. I certainly understand that there is a need for it. Some companies that are, have some community residents that have very large lawns and have deer problems, or, mice carry deer tick. There is a need for it in some cases, but I think that you know, sadly, our stance on that to those who live by doing this kind of work, we believe that there are in most cases, fertilizer-free, pesticide-free ways to deal with those types of issues. And we have all kinds of information on our website. We have all kinds of materials. So,
Thank you. Anybody else? Going once? Going twice? I'm seeing heads encouraging, but nobody else is coming. Okay. In that case, hi. Welcome. No, that's okay. I know the roads were really bad tonight. So we're going to have a work session. Want to have a further work session about this? You guys ready? Feel like we're ready to close this public hearing, or that we've had enough input? Let me look around and see.
Well, if you're going to hold another work session, if there's any chance that you're going to make any further changes, then I would recommend leaving the public hearing open.
Okay, can we leave it open without a next date?
Well, if you think you might need a little bit more time, you can adjourn it to, I believe it's October 23rd, which would be 4 weeks from now. That would give you a little bit more time, maybe a couple of work sessions, or one work session, and then just some time to accumulate some additional information.
That would be great.
If you don't just want to do it at the next legislative session in 2 weeks, but it's obviously up to the board.
Okay, and again, I mean, obviously, this wouldn't impact the season right now, because no matter what we decide, leaf blowers would not be banned for this starting soon. So we'll adjourn the public hearing to October 23rd. Do I have, sorry, were you raising your hand? Okay, October 23rd. Do I have a motion to do so?
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you, everybody. Next up, we have a public hearing on local law number 5, accessory apartments. We posted the new draft of this local law over a week ago. We had held this open because while no one has come forward recently, we wanted to make sure if anyone was away over the summer, they had a chance to comment, and also to comment on the revisions, which took into account some of the input we had received to date. Is there anybody here to address the board on the local law number 5 accessory apartments? Fantastic.
So we
have a motion to.
I would recommend adjourning it to the same time period to the 10/23, just to make sure that we've satisfied all the administrative requirements, make sure all the notices have been sent out with respect to GML. That way, if we get any comments back, they can be incorporated before you close and vote.
Okay. I have a motion to adjourn to October 23rd. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Next up, we have local law number 6, solar energy. Can we postpone this until our planner comes, or not? We're not allowed to do that. Usually I know we have all of our public hearing comments, but we were waiting for a planner who's obviously stuck in enormous amounts of traffic. Either that or he's walking in the door this moment. Let me just see. Incredible. I'll be there soon. That was at 7:24.
I don't see the harm in just coming back to it.
We can come back to it. Okay, because we have Ryan Salyer here who'd love to make a presentation to the board on his Eagle Scout project and update. So we are going to, great. Let's just have a quick public hearing on the solar code. Sorry, Ryan. Okay. Hi, David. Okay, it's almost perfect timing. If you'd come here 1 minute earlier, it would have been perfect timing. Yeah. Just so you know, there were no comments on the accessory apartments. So we're on to local law number 6, solar energy. So we've been considering a new local law which would streamline the application process for solar permitting for 3 different types of solar installations. Those mounted on rooftops, freestanding or ground mounted, and larger solar farms, which are also ground mounted for the most part. Some of us have had an opportunity to see a larger scale ground mounted installation in neighboring Yorktown, which might be helpful to inform our decision making. I am not sure which board members were able to attend, but I did go. And I know that Councilwoman Shaw went. Anybody else go? Okay, fantastic. So we would like to open up the public hearing at this time to see if there are any additional comments from the public on the proposed solar energy local law. And our planner, David Stallman from FP Clark, is here tonight in case we need to clarify anything and also to help with our work session discussion later in the evening.
Donna Sharrett, 84 Morningside Drive, again. So I have just a few comments about that, and they all seem to be located within those tables that are at the back of the wall there. The first is that GB has to, a 2-acre GB property would be, could be a solar farm.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
The GB district,
Yes.
it says that it has to be 2 acres to be a solar farm. So right next to the project behind me, and it's also adjacent to the back part of my property, is a 2.2 acre property that's for sale. So I am definitely very interested in this. Not that I'm saying a solar farm would be the worst thing behind my property, but if you're saying it's a 100-foot setback on 2 acres, the way I did the math, that would mean there would be 100 foot all the way around the property, and then you'd be left with 100 by 100 size for a solar farm, which I think is doesn't seem feasible at all. I think it's way too small of a property. My worry here is that when the wetland law changed, and it was a 100-foot setback for the wetlands, and then when a developer came in and said that they wouldn't be able to meet their financial expectations with a 100-foot setback, then they didn't have to have the 100-foot setback. The property behind me, anybody can go on North State Road and see, it is cleared from edge to edge. There is no buffer. They will be planting, but that's very different than a wetland buffer. So I worry that if a project comes in on this 2-acre property, that 100-foot setback will also be excused and allowed, like a let's make a deal kind of thing. So I think it should be a larger property. The property, the suburban karting, which was mentioned, that's a 4.4 acre property. That's a larger property. So maybe maybe 2 acres is a bit small. And again,
Just a quick comment on
concerned.
that.
Yeah.
From hearing from some of the solar developers, I mean, they're looking at like 15 acre. I don't think they're looking at. I don't
Right,
think
that's what
anybody.
I'm
I don't
saying.
think it's financially feasible for 2
Right.
acre
So, but I
property.
worry that they'd be allowed to not have the 100-foot buffer. Even in 2 acres still seems really small. So, but that is my concern. So that's pretty much it. The other thing is if it's going to be in GB, as we all know, the GB is right next to the residential, and you're allowing solar in residential and GB, but then you have different heights for both. I think they should both be 15. And also I was confused. It said that the heights would have to be the 15 or 20. That would be the maximum, correct? Okay, then I was reading it wrong, because the way I was reading it, it sounded like that seemed confusing. So I think oh, and I was also concerned when I heard that the town engineer was requesting that there possibly would be less of a setback on a southern side to give more advantage, more sunlight. You know, if you're putting in a residential area, I think every resident should be treated the same and should have the same buffer. So, you know, a larger property would be better. And again, I'm all for solar. I'm not against it, but I do think that we need to have some respect for the neighbors. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else here to address the board on solar? Okay.
Hi, I'm Ken Camber. I'm in 84 Morningside Drive. I guess I would have one comment. If it was 2 acres or 10 acres or 30 acres, if you were clear cutting a totally wooded property to put in a solar farm, and that would impact other people because you clear cutted 30 acres or 5 acres, I think I would be opposed to that. So it would have to be in the right kind of setting. And solar farms that I've seen have been on landfills, right? So they're kind of getting a double use out of these properties because they're already clear. There is no tree
Which
cover.
I understand that, but I mean, if you would clear cut a property to develop a bunch of single family homes, because you're, as of right, you can do that, or you can put up some
Right.
other kind of development in that same area, you're still going to be clear cutting the property.
But it's an interesting, you're doing this to be green, right? I mean, I know it's an industry in itself.
It's
right,
a
to
combination.
get away from
It's an
oil and gas.
alternative energy source, right?
To get
So-
away from ONG, right?
Yeah. But we
So
do
to-
have a tree, we have a tree ordinance, which I know you're familiar with. So you'd still be responsible for replenishing whatever amount of the trees, what was it, 50%? I can't remember of the girth of the trees that you remove. So even though you wouldn't put them back there, you're still having to put them back in the town someplace. So
Okay. Well,
And,
I'm
you know,
I'm expressing my opinion.
yeah, no,
right?
no, I know. And but
I'm
I
just
want,
not
because a few people have said that, I guess I wanted to know what your response would be to the fact that, some of these properties would potentially be,
Right. Well, I mean, it's
Clear
how
cut
you want to
more.
run the town, or what's your vision for the town, right?
sure.
Looking at solar panels or looking at trees? I mean,
But-
on-
but I
on
think
open
the issue-
property.
The issue is, just to clarify, these would be on properties that are already zoned. So whether or
Zoned
not
for
somebody's
solar?
there for building. So whether there's single family homes or a business or something, they're already zoned. So whoever buys the property will be taking down trees to do something. So it's not like we're going to parkland and
Right.
and
Well, my
allowing
understanding,
for-
everything is zoned, and if you're not adherence to the zone, then you go to another branch or within the planning board, right? What's not zoned in this town? Everything is zoned.
Well,
Right? So
but
it's
I
a
mean
matter of
zone
conformance,
for
and if you go
zone for
to-
construction. So if
So they're
they're-
industrial,
they're
right?
well, they're not
Or
industrial. It could be residential too. So if the property, somebody's going to buy the property, they're going to probably be taking down trees no matter what. So it's not like we're looking at parkland or things where trees are going to be in perpetuity and clear cutting to put a solar farm. It's just an alternative use for the property where anyone can buy it and develop it and take down trees.
Okay, so
Yeah.
just so I get an understanding, I could take my property, take down every tree, and put up a solar farm, because I'm within 1 acre.
I don't
Is that-
know.
is
think
that-
it's within
No,
one
no.
acre,
No.
I think the point is that there's going to be some sort of development, could be some sort of development on every property. It's not a matter of forest or solar farm, not either or.
Right.
So number one, every property in the town is zoned for some sort of development. And number two, there's going to be a replacement of trees if trees come down.
Okay, so so that's your mitigating, right? Put a tree half the size of what was there. So if I had my oak tree that I mentioned before, my beautiful oak tree,
Mhm.
that's, I don't know, roughly 6 feet in diameter, I would be responsible to putting up a 3-foot diameter, equivalent, right?
But just to be clear, that would be true for anything that was to be built there. So you'd have the same issue if someone was building homes potentially, or they were constructing anything that the property was zoned for, any kind of development. You still are always at a risk that a tree is going to come down. So I think that it's important to clarify this, that could happen with any development, not just a solar farm. So the idea is that this gives an alternative that also satisfies an environmental concern, because you'd be getting a renewable energy source. So it's not to say that we are for chopping down all the trees and clear cutting all the trees, but this is on property where somebody could decide to build a cluster homes and that oak tree could still end up coming down. So that's really the issue. So it could happen no matter what's built there, and whoever buys the property has the right, will be building as of right.
Okay, well, thank you for
Yeah.
clarifying.
Okay. Anybody else on solar? Well,
You're going to be holding a work session.
Yeah, we're
on
having a
this.
work session,
Yeah.
right? All my questions go there, right?
yeah.
So it would just, I
We're
would
just
also
gonna-
just recommend keeping this open and adjourning it.
Okay.
It's up to the discretion of the board whether with this one you want to do it in 2 weeks or do 4 weeks like you have with everything.
I think we should put this on for. That's okay with you? Public hearing, just because for the other ones, I feel like we're almost at the end of all of the comments. We're still working a little bit more. I mean, we're still working on the leaf blower too, but I feel like we just need a little bit more time for that. So if you wouldn't mind, I would like to put this on for 2 weeks from now.
Back to
Are we okay with that?
renovations.
Okay, so that's October 9th. Do I have a motion to adjourn this public hearing to October 9th?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Okay, and now, next up is, we have Ryan Salyer, a special presentation from our Eagle Scout 2B, who has come to us before to discuss a project at Cedar Lane Park that he has been doing a lot of work on behind the scenes with various folks who have helped him. He's met at the site a number of times with Mario Velardo, the parks foreman, John Hamilton, the building inspector, and myself. And Ryan, thanks for coming tonight. Please share with the board the progress you've made and the plans you have, and how you're planning to implement those plans to repair the Cedar Lane Park steps for people going from the parking lot near the football field to the pavilion or the bathrooms.
Okay. So since last I was here in February, I did a lot of fundraising for this project, and I also made a couple changes to the project itself. So to date, I've raised almost $5,000 for the project.
Fantastic. Awesome.
Doing different fundraisers, things like that. Thank you.
That's a lot more than when I saw you last.
And yeah,
That's
and then
great.
as we had spoken before, my original vision, in February was to do the entire length of the stairs. It was about 20 some odd steps that it was, but I later found out that it would probably not be feasible for me individually to do it as my own project. So as I discussed with you and Mario, my new plan was to do the upper portion of the steps, including the bridge portion. So I'm going to be, it's 6 steps as it is in the photo here. So it's this upper portion. So I plan on adding, on one side of the stairs, the shorter side, I'm going to be adding roughly 21.5 feet of railing, using 2x4s and 4x4 posts with like a rounded edge, because Mr. Hamilton had mentioned to me that he wanted the railings to be not like pointy so that people don't get injured. And then on the other side, I will be doing the same thing with 26 feet of railing. And for the stairs themselves, I plan on removing the old rotted railroad ties that are there and be replacing them with a material called Versalock, which looks like this. It's like a stackable stone material, so you have like a base on the bottom that's going to the bottom. And when I spoke with the supplier, he thought it would be better if we stacked them up two blocks high, like they are in this part. And then it has like a plate that gets put in on the top to make the stair. And I will be doing that for each of the 6 stairs. And that's how those will be made. So for my timeline, I was thinking realistically this could be a 4-day project. I think I was thinking probably the first day, would be a lot of taking out the old railroad ties, and there's also some of the old railing that was previously there, so removing and stripping all of the old material. I figured each day, I didn't write down the time, but I figured probably like from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. each day. I think that would be a good work day, depending on how much help I would get. And then the second and third day would entail leveling the surfaces so that they're at the right height and installing the new stairs using this material. So that will include possibly doing some digging for placing the bottom unit of the stair in, and then adding the top. So I figured those would probably take 2 days worth of work. and also the last day would probably entail finishing up, if needed, installing the stairs and putting the new railings in place, which I said would be the 4x4 posts that would be installed into the ground, and then it would have the rounded top, so to make it more accessible.
Okay.
And then I was also wanted to discuss possible project dates with you.
Right. Okay. So in terms of, board members, new comments from anybody?
I was curious about the Versalock. How
Uh-huh.
long does that last compared to what was there?
It lasts a very long time. It's like a stone material. I spoke with the people over at ASA Stone in Shrub Oak, and they said it's very long-lasting material. It's basically like a stone material. It's going to last a lot longer than the railroad ties will.
And that is something that our parks foreman is in favor of.
That
He
was
does
my
not
next
like
question.
does not like railroad ties, and that's probably, I think that's why, Ryan, you ended up there, right, with the stone.
Yeah, so it lasts longer, and I think it'll look. I have another picture that I showed. It would look like this once it's done.
Yeah,
It looks.
very
I
nice.
think it looks a lot nicer.
Awesome. So I think one of the issues is that you wanted to do the work on the weekends, but we're also going to need participation from our parks department, and that gets us into overtime and double time on the weekends. So is there a way that we can find some weekdays to do this instead of weekends?
I mean, I was looking at that, and like really the way that it would work, I would ask the help of my troop. So I
Right.
figured, usually during the school week, it's not really feasible to do it since it's getting darker earlier now. But since I figured if we do it on a weekend, like a Saturday and Sunday, my troop would be more readily available, and we could have less workers there. I mean, I'm not sure how much really heavy lifting. I mean, I think from what I spoke to the people at ASA Stone, they said it's manageable for like scouts to do. I mean, I would think I would like to have Mario there. I'm not sure how many other workers we would really need, but if I have enough guys from my troop, I think it would be feasible enough of a job for us to do on our own. So I'm kind of like, my job is to oversee and run how it's supposed to, see how it's supposed to run, and then also help with the project itself along with my troop.
So I'm
That's
just
what
gonna
a lot of Eagle
quickly
projects.
consult my. That's a double time for us.
Okay, never mind. The Monday.
What?
Oh,
It's a
they-
work. It's not. It's a non-work day. It's a day
Oh,
off. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know.
Right. Wait. Let me just. I just want to consult my human resources director over there, Maddie. Columbus Day is a day off, correct? Yes. Okay. So, and right, exactly. So we're talking about double pay for Sundays and Saturdays, correct? Is it Saturdays also? Saturdays time and a half. Okay. And Saturday, we do still have one person, although I don't know when he's out of that Saturday. Is it almost done? Okay. I'm not sure because there's still games being played, so I'm not 100% sure. So we might be able to, do a Saturday, a couple Saturdays. I mean, is it possible? One of the issues is that we have the Haunted Hayride coming up in October, at the end of October.
Do you know the date of that?
October 26th and 7th.
26th and 27th.
Right. And so we're just, I think what we're a little concerned is if you start it and don't finish it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. I mean, oh no, I'm just looking at my calendar here.
And I know that the days are getting shorter, so even if, I'm trying to think if we did after school from 3 to 6 or something like that, could we do a couple?
Yeah, I mean, that could be possible.
Now, did you want, I'm sorry, you wanted to ask your question.
It's my Scoutmaster.
Projects like at, sorry. In the past, we've done projects at like Krabaki Park and things like that, and I don't remember us having have a staff member on site while we did that. We've done multiple projects on park.
Different contract
Yeah.
with us, though. This is town, not village.
Oh, is that why? That's the
It's
village?
it's a town and it's a
Oh,
different
really?
union, honestly, and they do have more staff on the weekends, so they might have had somebody who could have like buzzed around and popped in,
Okay.
'cause
I mean,
they- yeah.
we are, are insured, COI, there's always an adult there and whatnot. So I just wanted to make sure that I understood that part of it. The other things I'm sure we could augment with weeknights because but yeah, that was all.
Okay. So I guess, all right, so we'll try again. Did you propose some dates? You did propose some dates, but I don't think that they were.
That was at the end of the month. So how about we could do a Friday night. Does the 19th through the 21st weekend work? Or the 19th and 20th Friday,
That's
Saturday?
the weekend. Well, that's the weekend before the hayride, and they do all the rehearsals that weekend. And as far as I know, our park staff is also involved in that, so that's part of the issue with October.
Okay. So what about the weekend of the 12th? The 12th to the 14th?
Possibly.
Okay.
Possibly.
How long do you think it's going to take you?
As I said, probably it will be about a 4-day project.
4 day?
Yep.
But do you think maybe you should consult your help before you make these dates?
Yeah, no, yeah, no, of course I would, yeah, like to, I want to let my troop know, of course, but I'd also like to have some dates down so I can
So
give
let's
people time.
try October 12th weekend, and we'll see, and we'll talk. We have to talk with the Teamsters about it in terms of who needs to be there when, and we need to just see if Mario's available that weekend. Okay.
Yeah, so that would be the 12th
Or his
to the
appointee.
14th. Okay.
Okay. And maybe what you want to do is maybe you could theoretically start Friday night, Friday afternoon, like 3 to 6. That October, whatever that is,
October.
11th. Is it 11th? October
12th.
October 12th. I
Okay.
see. October 12th.
Start earlier than
Yeah.
that, though? I mean, if you
Well,
have the
it's after
6
school. They go to
completely
school.
out
I
for
like.
you?
School's over.
No, no,
What,
I mean,
what did you say? I'm sorry.
earlier in the
week
month,
before
like the
completely
beginning
out
of
the
October 6th.
I'd love to start that.
I mean, our troop has a big event on that Saturday. I mean, it'd be kind of tough to do it, but I know. Yeah, I could also do Sunday the 7th, and we also have off Columbus Day. And I know.
Okay.
Just think in terms
Well,
of
again,
have
I'm not
every-
sure.
yeah.
We can look into the 7th in Columbus.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so
Okay. So Ryan, let's try to talk tomorrow at some point with Mario. Okay.
yeah, should I just shoot him an I don't have his phone number.
No. Just call me.
Okay.
And I'll try to get him on the
Or
line.
office.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I will give you a call tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, great. Otherwise, everybody is excited about this, right?
It's
Yes.
great.
We're very excited.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks so much for coming before us, and we look forward to getting this accomplished
Okay, thank you.
for all of us. Okay. All right. Next up, shuffling my papers. Announcements. So we had a fantastic car-free day. That we celebrated in the town and the village of Ossining. And thank you, Susie Ross of Green Ossining, for helping us to accomplish that. I have still seen some Lime bikes around the village. In fact, there were a few outside Village Hall. So I think they haven't quite picked them up yet. So if you didn't get a chance to participate and borrow a bike, and I heard that they were very well received by somebody at St. Anne's this weekend, who thought that it was a great way to get in some exercise without having to invest in a very expensive bicycle. So that's another option, is just because they're fun, you can take advantage of the Lime Bikes app until you don't see them around anymore. But it is a dockless bike share program. Thanks, everybody. And thank you to all those who took the pledge and took the time to figure out how to reduce their single occupancy vehicle use for the day. Even if, and I know at least one council member, because she told me how she did it, did work on that. Even if you didn't participate, hopefully it made you think about how you get to and fro, maybe motivated you to work harder towards reducing single occupancy vehicle rides on a more regular basis. This is just one more way we can start to make strides towards a more sustainable and lasting and fossil fuel free future. As we get closer to the due date to pay the first half of school taxes, we want to remind you to share with your friends and neighbors that we had some problems with the delivery of some of the bills this year. While we are not exactly sure where the breach occurred, we know some people did not receive their bills. Unfortunately, the law gives us no leeway whatsoever with collections, and you still must pay what you owe by September 30th, even if you don't actually receive a physical bill from us. This year, you have until October 1st to pay, since the 30th is on a Sunday. The tax office is happy to print out or email duplicate bills to anyone who did not receive one, or even if you did and want another one, they can still do that for you as well. Since we have been hearing from quite a few folks that they did not receive their school tax bill, which was mailed on August 21st. Our receiver, Holly Perlowitz, and staff Patty and Martha have been doing an exemplary job of helping folks who need their bills reprinted, and I want to thank them wholeheartedly for stepping up for our taxpayers. On Friday, last Friday, we learned that a problem we thought our highway guys had nipped in the bud needed some more tending to. On Wednesday, one of our men was taking a truck out to pick up gravel shortly after leaving the town highway department, and he pulled onto Route 9A and noticed the truck was smoking. He immediately pulled over and off the road onto Parkway Drive in Briarcliff and got out to observe the problem. Hot red liquid was coming out of the truck, which he believed to be radiator fluid. He called it into the town mechanic, who confirmed from his description that it was radiator fluid and advised him to drive back to the shop as long as it wasn't overheating, which it was not. Upon arrival, the mechanic inspected the truck and discerned that, in fact, it was hydraulic oil, and the highway staff was quickly dispersed to remediate the liquid that had spilled. They also notified the village of Briarcliff and Westchester County. In addition to laying down oil-absorbent pads and quick-dry materials and sand, and having the materials swept up by the village of Briarcliff, who came to help, the county gave us a thumbs up for remediation. Unfortunately, New York State DEC did not feel the same way, and on Friday, they required that we call in a company who needed to hand remove some soil that had been impacted, as well as doing additional absorbing and scrubbing and sanding to remove any additional residue that was left from the spill. We are glad to be able to have now taken care of the situation according to the state's requirements. Also last week, we hosted a meeting with the Village of Ossining, Assemblywoman Sandy Galiff, and Westchester County Legislator Catherine Borgia to discuss plans for Organ Donor Enrollment Day on October 10th. While New York State is the 4th fastest growing state in organ donor registration, we are still last in the nation in terms of the number of registered donors. As we have done for the past 2 years, we are once again registered with Live on New York as Team Ossining, and are hoping that by partnering with some of the bigger employers in the area, we can really make a dent locally in increasing our registration numbers. We have interest from Open Door, Sing Sing Correctional Facility, Ossining Public Library, Ossining School District, Ossining Children's Center, Greater Ossining Chamber of Commerce, the Elks Lodge. They're going to promote it on their Organ Groove night. And we anticipate a few more. And with the help of volunteers from Transport Support Organization, Live on New York, and you, we know we will see a big jump. We will share more information as well as how to register online as we get closer to the big day. We also learned that just because the IRS has come out with an opinion on the state allowing charitable trusts to be set up in an effort to offset the debilitating change in deductibility of property taxes, we are not quite ready to give up. The state is not. There is work underway at the state level to defend the charitable trust as a viable donation that should not be considered any differently, even if it is used to offset a property tax bill, than a regular donation made to a municipality or school district, which is fully tax deductible. We will be sharing more information with you about this too at our next work session, and the board discusses if we want to take up a resolution to partner with the state to continue to submit comments to the IRS, as well as potentially defend those comments in some sort of legal opinion moving forward. Did you want to say something on that? No.
Do you want me to?
Well, we're going. Do you want?
We'll talk about it more.
Right.
Before the board were to take any action. If they were so inclined.
Right. And I did speak to Assemblywoman Pollin's office this evening because they had asked that municipalities and school districts consider making a contribution of about $1,000 or whatever amount they felt to help support the legal work that's going to be done to basically defend the actions of the opinions of the state that this is something that's legal and can be done. And we still then have the option to set up our own charitable trust in the town for the purposes of receiving donations and using those to offset the property tax bills. Tomorrow evening, Wednesday, September 26th, Ossining Village historian Dana White will be making a very special presentation entitled The Origins of the Ossining Public Library at 7 p.m. in the Ossining Public Library's Boudars Theater. Did you know that the Ossining Library was, in a prior life, a Carnegie Library? I didn't. Come hear Ms. White's presentation and learn from Scott Craven, Ossining town historian, about the history of Carnegie libraries around the U.S. This one is not to be missed. Sick of the summer clutter? Registration closes on Wednesday, September 26th for the Green Ossining Fall Community Tag Sale on Saturday, October 6th. For $25, receive a double-sided sign to post on your lawn 3 days before the sale. Additional signs to hang around your neighborhood. A link to your home and items for sale on Green Ossining's Google Map, and promotion in the Penny Saver. I did that once and it was fantastic. Local press, bulletins, and assorted social media outlets will also help advertise. Don't forget to tell your neighbors. Block and multifamily sales save on registration costs. Happy decluttering. Visit greenossining.org to sign up. Also remember to follow Green Ossining Townwide Tag Sale, Ossining and Briarcliff Manor Facebook page to discover what great things are for sale. We are nearing the end of the month, and as you can hear, we're already talking about October, and we've started to see signs of Halloween popping up in stores and on farms. If you haven't yet gotten your tickets to the Haunted Hayride on Friday and Saturday, October 26th and 27th, hurry, tickets are going fast. Tickets are discounted if you order them online in advance of the event. Also, if you have a ghoulish side and want to participate in this year's fun at Cedar Lane Park, please sign up to volunteer. Both can be done on the Forest O Fears website, forestofears.org, or you can email our resident ghoul, Ms. Fern Quesada, at FOF, assistant ASST directors at gmail.com. You can also come support the event at the Hayride Potluck and Silent Auction on October 6th between 5 and 7 p.m. Bring a dish to share and help raise money for the spooky spectacle in Cedar Lane Park. On Thursday, October 11th, Senator David Carlucci and Assemblywoman Sandy Galiff will be hosting the annual Ossining Senior Fair in the Community Center Gym between 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. If you are a senior or have any seniors in your life, the presentations and the vendors, I guess you could call them, at this annual event will provide you with some great information to navigate the complex world of Medicare, Social Security, and more. Another exciting October event, the Crossover Yoga Project will be holding their annual fundraiser at our very own Cedar Lane Arts Center on October 12th. Be a part of celebrating 3 years of empowering over 2,500 at-risk girls in detention centers, prisons, and residential treatment centers throughout Westchester through trauma-informed yoga, mindfulness, and creative art therapy. Learn more at crossoveryogaproject.org. Also in Cedar Lane Park, join the Ossining PBA for their Foot Pursuit 5K on October 20th. All proceeds of the race will go towards scholarships for local children who ordinarily would not have the opportunity to attend camp due to financial hardships. Come run the race to get a new personal best time, or try and beat the Chief, who just this weekend ran half Ironman, so you've got your work cut out for you. Visit the Ossining PBA Facebook page to learn more. And now, I want to broach a topic that you have heard about many times from other folks sitting in these seats over the years. As many of you know, numerous discussions have taken place over these years, both formally and informally, about streamlining government inside the town of Ossining, given that we have 2 villages with separate governments, an umbrella-like town government, and many services from all entities that offer at least the perception of redundancy or, to be kind, overlap. This is not to mention the school districts, fire departments, libraries, and related entities, none of which are the subject of the effort that I'm about to talk to you about. It's not necessary to recount all of the discussions of the past. The fact is that talk about streamlining services has actually translated into action in the town of Ossining. The town's police department was dissolved some years ago, plus a consolidated town court is now in existence for Ossining, and we share so many services on all levels. Multiple studies and grant submissions have been exercised over the years. Clearly, our history is one of focus on making ourselves more efficient, but our job is not over. Tonight, I want to highlight the fact that the town of Ossining, joined by the village of Ossining, applied to the Department of State last August for grant funding under the Municipal Restructuring Fund, MRF program, to help us address possible additional efficiencies in our operating budgets to save taxpayers money by streamlining services through a number of different strategies. The efforts identified in the grant application primarily concern consolidation of highway department services, but also include consolidation of park services. While our application was made with the knowledge and participation of the village, because some of the future concepts would include a partnership with the village, the first phase of what we are calling Project Forward only concerns town of Ossining services and not those of any other entity, including the villages within the town. In early 2018, we were notified that we had been approved for the first phase of our work through an award of $22,445. We then set out to secure the services of a consultant who could help us through the community engagement process. So the next step is to draw your attention to that effort. We have a website, projectforward2.com, and a survey in both English and Spanish. Our goal is to have all of you in our community become acquainted with everything on the site and take the survey so that we can get a feel for your reaction to a couple of conceptual plans about how we might continue our efforts to streamline government operations. We are doing all we can to get this into the hands of our residents. That means you. This includes a postcard mailed to all homes, links on our website and town Facebook page, press releases to local and regional media, email messages to all who have signed up for the town's email blasts. So look out for a postcard with the words Project Forward on them coming to your mailbox. Please know we are interested in hearing from you about how you think we can move forward in this effort, hence the name Project Forward. We welcome everyone's participation. And I actually think I brought a copy of what that postcard looks like so you can focus on it, but I gotta find it. So here it is. For the camera, this is what you should be looking for. The mail. And the other side of it's gonna look like that. Got it? All right, thank you, Tom. That's it for my announcements. Are there any other announcements from any of my board colleagues?
I have one. The Ossining Food Pantry is having its 30th annual celebration on Sunday, September 30th from 4 to 7. For information and or tickets, go to www.ossiningfoodpantry.org.
See you there. Else? Huh? All right. In that case, I think up next we have liaison reports. Okay.
That one, I just wanted to say that I had the privilege of attending Senator Hook and Letter's ceremony to honor James Ryan Sr., or Pops as the firemen like to refer to him, on reaching his 50 years of service to our community as with the Ossining Volunteer Fire Department. And I just wanted to thank him again for all he's done, and the Senate really put on a nice dinner in honor of him, and you know.
And we recognized him and gave him a day in the town of Ossining, which was yesterday.
Yes.
The 24th was James Ryan Day in the town of Ossining. So congratulations to, you would still get to call him chief, deputy chief. He was a chief at one point, right?
Pops.
Pops. Congratulations to Pops. Thank you for your commitment to our town and village. And we also attended the independent
wet down of the
wet down
new
of the
engine 101.
Right.
Company 6 fire truck. It's beautiful. A lot of digital dials and things on there. Very impressive. I wouldn't know the first thing how to handle that, but they seem to be doing a good job. So it's a beautiful truck, and I wish them well. Many years of safe.
Absolutely.
Other liaison reports?
Okay. Hearing none. Do we have any departmental reports? Seeing none. Let's move into board resolutions.
Okay, first we have approval of minutes, regular meeting. Resolved that the town board of the town of Ossining hereby approves the September 12th, 2018 minutes of the regular meeting as presented.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Approval of voucher detail report. Resolved that the town board hereby approves the voucher detail report dated September 25th, 2018 in the amount of $914,649.28.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
So this is a very large voucher detail report. So Maddie Zahach, would you be so kind as to take us through some of the larger items?
Well, certainly.
Thank you.
So this was something that happens, only a couple times a year that we have several of our big bills come in all at once. And in the interest of getting everyone paid on time, we don't sit on them. We just kind of put them through and then owe you an explanation. So basically, we have our, I believe it's the October IMA payment for the Village of Ossining, as well as our October medical bill. We also had to pay the county for the chargeback of our elections, which is a once annual bill. We had to pay our 1 out of 6 payments to the ambulance district, which is just over $100,000, and we paid for our hook lift truck for the town parks department, which you might remember is coming half from fund balance and half from the capital project, as well as the paving at Gerlach Park. So it was kind of a lot of things that took a while for the invoices to come in and whatnot. That all sort of fell together, so things should be back to normal.
And I also think our last voucher detail is very, very low. So this balanced out our very low last voucher, which and this also
Doesn't make
didn't-
it less painful.
It also did include the water for the spray park for the summer from
This is in there.
June to August.
Yeah, that was a hefty number.
It was actually about the same as last year.
So, any other questions?
Any other questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, termination, Town Parks Department. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the town supervisor, the Ossining Town Board hereby terminates the employment of Stephen White for just cause, effective September 25th, 2018, pursuant to Article 14 of the collective bargaining agreement between the town of Ossining and the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, Local 456 IBT.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Acceptance of donation, 1984 Freedom 21 sailboat. The town board of the town of Ossining hereby accepts, with thanks, Andrew and Stacy Farber's donation of a 21-foot 1984 Freedom 21 sailboat with Mercury 6 HP engine valued at approximately $4,790 for use by the Ossining Recreation Department Community Sailing Program.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So I was lucky enough to have a chance to go out for a sail on this boat with Andrew and Stacy, as well as Joe Clark, who runs our community sailing program, and expert boater extraordinaire, Councilwoman Liz Feldman. Even I was able to sail it, with Liz's help, of course. Councilwoman Feldman. It is a lovely, easy to sail boat, even though I don't know how to sail. We're very grateful to the Farbers for their generous donation, which will help us get our sailing program back on track in 2019 after our 2 boats, which were also donations, were damaged in one of the storms back in March, I believe. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you so much, Farbers. Okay.
That's it for the resolution.
Okay, so there's no correspondence to be received and filed. No monthly reports. Visitor recognition. Do you want to be do you want to come and be recognized, or are you just waving? Do you have something? Do you want any announcements? Absolutely. Okay, and with with nothing more for our regular meeting, can I have a motion to adjourn into work session? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, so we're gonna have a not very long work session, hopefully. And thank you, David Stallman from FP Clark, for joining us this evening to talk about our solar codes and where we are with them in terms of the feedback that we've received. And I can't remember now if we actually did make any of these changes to date or if we're still where we started. We haven't made.
Thanks. There is a draft dated September 10, 2018, which shows various changes with double underlining and strikeout.
I think I have that. That's what we have before us.
Yeah,
Yes.
you've had that for
Right.
well, about 10 days or so.
Okay.
14 days. September 10th. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, got it.
We
So we
haven't
have-
gone over that together, but
Okay, so do you want to just take us through the double underlining and strikeouts and
these
just
are
to
based
talk
upon
about-
comments that I received from the town board and members of the public, perhaps John Hamilton, a variety of sources. So we have at the bottom of page 1 a new definition for native perennial vegetation, which we use later in the local law in the chapter. And that would be: this vegetation is comprised of native wildflowers, forbs, and grasses that serve as habitat, forage, and migratory way stations for pollinators, and shall not include any prohibited or regulated invasive species as determined by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation.
What's a forb?
I don't know, but
Is it?
it was in the model definition.
Okay. Anybody know
I
what
can
a
find
forb
out
is?
for you.
Is it?
Or
Somebody would need to look up the
I
word
think it's one of the
forb.
Forbes family.
Okay. Forb. What?
Oh, you're doing it?
It is not probably a broad-leaved herb, not fern,
Herbaceous,
other than a
flowering
grass,
plant, other than
especially when
grass.
growing in a field, prairie, or meadow, not a fern. It could be a fern. A broad-leaved herb, other than a grass, especially when growing in a field, prairie, or meadow, could actually be a fern. It could actually be a fern.
So,
Okay, so that's a forb.
right. So this gets used in the regulations regarding Tier 3 solar energy systems. And if you turn to the bottom of page 13, we have a new section 14, Vegetation Management Plan. And this says the application for a Tier 3 solar energy system shall include a vegetation management plan which incorporates existing and proposed native perennial vegetation and seed mixes to the maximum extent practicable for foraging habitat beneficial to game birds, songbirds, and pollinators. Such vegetation shall be located beneath and around solar collectors and solar energy equipment as applicable to the extent reasonably practicable.
I like
Or
that.
practical.
That makes me very happy.
That's very happy.
Okay, that makes us all very happy.
What's going to make you even happier, I think, is the
Happier.
definition at the top of page 3, which is
Okay.
pollinators.
Okay.
This is amazing. This fauna consists of bees, birds, or I should say birds and the bees, bats, and other insects or wildlife that pollinate flowering plants, and includes both wild and managed insects. And that definition, or that word, was also used in that paragraph I read before.
Right. I do like that also. And that does also make me very happy because I like pollinators and we need them. And as we're talking about what happens when we take down certain vegetation to put up solar panels, I wish there was a perfect form of energy, but there isn't, unfortunately. Or the sun is a perfect form of energy, but capturing it and using it isn't as perfect. So, unfortunately, there's a balancing act, and that's what we're looking at here, is to do a little balancing. So we know that as these solar farms have been developed elsewhere around the country, around the state, that they're seeing a need to make sure that the growth that isn't disturbing the ability of the solar panels to actually collect the sunlight, is, you know, there's an ability to be planting these sorts of things underneath the solar panels. So there's
Right.
plenty of room to do that without disturbing what's happening up on top.
Right.
So I think that's great. Thank you for including it.
Sure.
For the Forbes.
Yeah, especially the Forbes. Okay, so roof-mounted solar energy. For some reason, the roof of a principal building, principal was crossed out. Was that
Oh.
always?
That's in case somebody wants to put a small panel on an accessory building,
Okay.
some paneling on an accessory building.
Okay.
John Hamilton had pointed out that it said principal, and
Page 3.
that wasn't really intended.
On top. Okay, great. So on page 3, roof-mounted solar energy system, we went through the definitions: native, perennial vegetation, pollinators, and then the next page 3, roof-mounted solar energy system. The word principal was crossed out, and that was based on John Hamilton's suggestion, because if somebody wanted to put it on,
I feel like your 3 is my.
that's interesting because you said a different page number too. I don't know why I have, but okay.
I guess it depends on the printer that was used to print it out.
Why I'm looking at you funny when you say
Is it your 4? Your page 4?
what you said was page 1
Oh,
was
it's
my
page
page
3.
2. That's unhelpful. All right, well, he said page 1 and mine said page 2.
Mine said 2 also. I
Okay.
agree with that. Okay.
So,
But we're on what I said was page 3.
okay,
Roof-mounted solar energy system is the top, second one down.
yes, all
But
right.
Principal is
Okay,
crossed
fine,
out. Okay.
with you.
Okay. Fantastic. Next,
Next, page 6,
which is probably our page 5.
item 5. I inserted the word reasonable. It should have been reasonably possible and practicable. This says the Tier 2 and Tier 3 solar energy systems shall be screened as much as should be reasonably possible and practicable.
What is page 6?
Okay, that is page 6.
That is page 6.
Okay.
So that what's really meant is not as much as possible, reasonably possible, I think is more appropriate, because there has to be an accommodation, I think, to let the sun at the solar panels. And then in 6, this was prompted by the attorney who, anyway.
Sent in some comments.
Yes. So now here we make it clear that this is regarding calculations of impervious surface coverage and building coverage, including the solar collectors and solar energy equipment. And these calculations shall, however, exclude pervious open space between arrays or rows of solar panels. For Tier 3 solar energy systems, the maximum permitted impervious surface coverage and building coverage shall be 35% in all of the zoning districts in which Tier 3 solar energy systems are permitted, which is really pretty low, really. It's a really fairly low building or coverage for these systems on a parcel. This basically means that 65% of the parcel would be not encumbered by the solar panels or equipment. And this is what they had.
They basically said as long as this, like, they could still make their
Yes,
numbers.
they
essentially.
recommended 35%, which I think is reasonable.
Anybody have an issue?
But we're not counting the spaces between the 35%, so
Right.
it's between the different big sections, not
Yes.
between the individual panels, though.
Yeah, the individual panels will be fairly close together. You won't be able to walk between them, but there'll be areas where you can
Okay,
walk
so
between
it's
them.
only between the different arrays. Okay,
Yeah, sort of like at a cemetery, I guess.
different sections.
Right. And then we have a paragraph number 7. The clearing of vegetation shall be limited to that which is necessary for the construction, operation, and maintenance of Tier 2 and Tier 3 solar energy systems. Solar energy systems shall not be sited within any required buffer areas. Make it clear that no more trees should come down than have to. Then the next change would be on page 8. And this is item F regarding Tier 2 solar energy systems, which are the smaller ground-mounted systems. And this would specify that architectural review board approval is necessary for these as well as site plan approval.
Okay.
Then,
I think everybody was interested in that, correct?
I believe so. And then item 6, also on page 8, we beefed this up a little bit. This is screening and visibility. It says Tier 2 solar energy systems shall have views from public roadways and adjacent properties minimized to the maximum extent reasonably practicable. A landscaping and screening plan shall be submitted which specifies the locations, elevations, height, plant species, and/or materials that will comprise the structures, landscaping, and/or grading used to screen and/or mitigate any adverse aesthetic effects of the system. Sort of beef that up. And then at the top of page 9, we had tree removal shall be subject to chapter 183 of this code. And I believe the town board wanted this specified, including but not limited to section 183-12G pertaining to tree replacement and or other mitigation.
So we're not altering our code.
Not altering it and referencing the
That they
50% replacement specifically, but not
Okay.
limiting the regulation to that.
Okay.
And then essentially paragraph G includes architectural review board approval. The tier 3 systems were subject and are still subject to site plan and conditional use permit approval, but now it's specified they would be subject to ARB approval as well.
So we're crossed out and are subject to the site plan application requirements set forth in the section. How come that was crossed out?
'Cause
9 and 50.
it's
49.
redundant. Yeah, exactly. Just what Christie said. In the second line, it says are permitted through the issuance of a conditional use permit and site plan approval.
I see.
So
Okay.
it was kind of redundant.
Okay.
And then the next change is on page 10.
Okay, so but also GB was added. Great, so that was significant. GB was added to G. Tier 3 systems are
Yes.
permitted in the
Yes.
one-family
Yeah,
residence.
That's right. I should have mentioned that.
So where we didn't have that before, and that was kind of the question, that was kind of the issue that,
I think John Hamilton brought it up first.
Right. I actually have a question though.
okay.
Aren't tier 3 systems basically a commercial system? Then why are they allowed in residential areas?
That's the whole point, because residential areas are the ones have
I get that, but if it's a business, if it's a commercial entity, why are we allowing it in a residential area?
we're looking at a different use. That's the whole point. We're looking at allowing it where otherwise building cluster homes or some other type of residence where act our school district and might have traffic and lots of other things that go along home building.
I think
So-
it's a very passive use, and assuming that it's screened well, which these regulations absolutely require, it would be a very innocuous, passive, safe,
So it would be innocuous, passive,
almost non-commercial.
commercial use.
Yeah.
I'm just asking. I mean,
It
it's
is.
a residential district, but it's a commercial use.
It's a threshold
Like,
policy
where
issue.
where is that line?
Well, that's why we're considering it. I mean, we're considering it as, you know,
As a sole alternative, though, so
That's
it doesn't allow you, then doesn't create a commercial district where you could put a retail establishment.
Right, well, so, just, I'd like to clarify or understand that. Just, if you could just stick a commercial use of, that's why we're zoning, I get that, but,
It's a fairly unique commercial use in the sense that
right, I'm sure I can come up with all kinds of unique commercial uses. Sorry.
I don't know.
But that would require, then wouldn't that require, if you're really looking at this specific to solar farms, not other commercial uses?
it's really kind of a utility, which is permitted throughout the residential zoning districts.
Okay,
There are all
then,
kinds of substations and utility lines and transmission lines and
So it's
So then
things
tier
that
three
don't,
would be treated as a utility?
It really is sort of.
Well, then shouldn't that be written? I'm asking.
We could use that word.
I'm just
in here, but
trying to understand
not
how
sure it's
we're putting
necessary.
something that is most probably a commercial entity and not a private personal entity. You know, I mean, if a homeowner wants to do it on their, 16 acres, that's, I suppose, that's a gray area for me, and I'd like to understand it better and have it clearer in the zoning. All right.
Else have an issue with this? Okay.
I could talk to Christy about it. I don't know that there's any harm in using the word utility.
Yeah, I'm not sure what type of clarification you're looking.
I mean, am I correct, Liz? You're just wondering if this opens the door to somebody to make a different interpretation on a commercial use and then put something in that's not a solar farm.
Or even have, somebody who does solar energy. I don't know. It just feels, it's a residential area and putting, large solar farms across residential areas, not necessarily.
So one of the things that we can talk about is if we want to put some sort of restriction on number of these potential
in our
solar
municipality.
farms that we might have.
All right, that would help me.
So if we wanted to say, okay, well, we think that our community isn't that big, don't have that much land, and
I want
we
you to
wouldn't want
character
more
of the
than
community.
we wouldn't want more than 3. I'm just saying.
Well, wouldn't you want to do it the same way you did the accessory apartments, where you indicate that you would have to consider the character of the neighborhood?
That is one thing that we could do. We could say that for planning board to character of the neighborhood, how it impacts, or we could.
Well, right now it is.
Well, that's the nature of the conditional use permit.
Yeah.
There is a conditional use permit that would have to be secured for these from the planning board.
Right.
And I think we have some other ideas as well, but we may want to talk about the legal implications in executive session.
Okay.
And does that fit within our comprehensive plan?
It will.
Will meaning we're changing the plan, or will
We may need to
mold it to?
We may need to adjust the plan. I've got to check the plan and see how it addresses solar energy.
Just correct me, because I'm feeling backwards. Are supposed to zone to our comprehensive plan, not comprehensive plan to our zone?
Our comprehensive plan is
I'm just
15,
asking.
and I'm
Okay.
responding. So you can ask, but I can also respond. So our comprehensive plan is 15 years old, right? 15, it was 2016
Yeah, I'm
years
not
old.
saying we shouldn't look at it.
I'm responding. Our comprehensive plan is 16 years old, and at the time, solar farms and solar energy and commercial and community solar wasn't even in the vernacular at that point. Even if people were considering solar panels and this and that, it wasn't something that was even discussed at that time. So to say that we need to fit it into our comprehensive plan, the comprehensive plan is a foundational document that lays, broad brushstrokes for what you want as a community. And I do know that there are pieces of the comprehensive plan that talk to sustainability.
Agreed.
So
Correct.
it's not like we can't retrofit again this into what are the idea behind the comprehensive plan from 2002.
Okay, I'm just making sure that our neighborhood.
I think it's really, really important if we look at this in context with what we're trying to do with leaf blower legislation and all these other things, like we're going to be living a different way. And if we're going to accept the fact that we need to do things for environment, we're going to have to look at different alternatives. So the nature of this is that, you still have all the safeguards and protections that you would for any other development where you would go to the planning board and they would have to make sure that's in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. But it does offer some real advantages for a neighborhood if you're talking about just strictly environmental impact. Because again, the issue of the trees is these are going to be parcels that are already zoned for somebody to build something where trees would come down if they build. So you do have the tree ordinance, so to a certain extent, clear cutting would be mitigated. But you also have potentially less environmental impact in a solar farm than you do of a cluster housing in terms of infrastructure needs and carbon footprint, and you're creating a renewable energy source. So
I mean, I'm all about that.
I know, but the thing is, this allows you to be flexible in doing that, because I don't know that Ossining has a lot of parcels that are already clear cut, that, you know, whether it's landfills or anything else. I don't know that we have that. So, and I can't think of anything off the top of my head. So the only parcels I know that you could do this on are parcels that are mostly in residential districts, probably some in business districts too, where you have the opportunity to put something. But I think it's something that we should allow for the opportunity of. And I think that in terms of, you know, anything else, you know, you're going to have quiet neighbors. So there's some advantages.
Yeah, I mean, and again, you don't have you don't have impact on infrastructure. So you're not having to put in roads, or you don't have to put in water. You don't have to put in sewers, and you don't have an impact on your school district, which has been something that's been top of mind for all of us. That's been drummed into us over and over again. You don't have
I get that, but
impact
I also
on
don't.
gas lines. Well,
Make
so
a
there's
mistake
again,
on that.
there's compromises. There's always
Okay.
compromises.
So,
There is
so the limit
perfect
on how
development.
many, I think, or at least the ability to look at how many is, I think, is very important.
Right. So that's something that we're going to
That's
talk
something
about.
we can talk about. And the other thing is, you know, you had mentioned, well, you could come up with a bunch of other commercial uses you could put
Right.
there. But that doesn't just mean that someone could do it. And as you've all seen throughout this process with all the legislation, you know, the town board has to adopt a local law and give consideration to what those impacts are, as you've all been discussing. So it's not just as simple as just saying, well, because you're doing this, I don't know if you're concerned about some sort of slippery slope.
Yeah,
But
basically.
I mean, I think that the town board
Allowing
has been
commercial
very
uses.
clear in discussing what and Mr. Stallman, what the advantages here are and what the benefits of having it in a residential neighborhood. And that's clearly laid out in the local law. And so I don't see the concern of having it automatically translate to other commercial uses.
Okay. And for those of us who did have an opportunity to see
I saw it.
Yorktown, what did you think?
The 5 foot high one didn't bother me. I'd really like to lower our numbers.
I don't know what, you know,
I don't know what
I'd
Yorktown's
love
codes
to-
are. Did you find them?
Yorktown doesn't have a solar law at this point in time. I found minutes, July 4th, 2018, July 24th, 2018, town board meeting. And it says the proposed local law adding a chapter to section 300 would allow solar generation facilities. They haven't adopted that yet. There's nothing on general code about solar regulations for Yorktown. They do talk about the yeshiva here, and Councilwoman Roker asked if this is a similar situation to the one at the yeshiva. Their planner said it is a little different because the yeshiva was looked at as more of an accessory use, the solar panels, that is, as an accessory use to the main use. So they didn't have any solar regulations when those solar panels were being constructed.
And that was part of the comment, correct me if I'm wrong, that was raised by John Hamilton originally, is that because there's nothing in this code, there's not a whole lot you can do to regulate it. So this is really giving you the benefit of being able to have more control than arguably you do right now.
Right.
Right.
And
So
Yorktown
I'm
is
just
trying to
trying to
catch up, as a
understand
matter
the
of
height
fact.
restrictions that other communities have.
I don't, well,
Trying to
Yorktown
understand the
doesn't
height.
have any height restrictions,
They don't
but I
have
think
it.
what would be interesting to find out is what height is needed and why it could be lower or higher, and does
Because
it
it
make
was
a difference?
Yorktown was not that visually impactful, and that doesn't really bother me so
Right.
much.
Right.
I can tell you that the dimensions came out of the NYSERDA model law. So that's where they came from.
So, I mean, I think the thing is that we're talking about screening.
Right. No, I get that.
And you need to have the screening to make sure that the neighbors aren't feeling it, right? I mean, that's kind of what
Right.
had come up.
Right.
Donna Sherritt brought that up again today.
Yeah, but screening at 5 feet and screening at something that's 20,
20
feet,
feet
is a big difference.
It's different, but if you're requiring screen it, I don't know from the solar, like, it's,
But if you did
have
something
to
at
make it-
20 feet, like, wouldn't you have shade, like any kind of screening can't put shade on the farm.
Well, I'm going to shade 5 feet. Have them at 5 feet. Then 10 feet shading it.
I don't know. I don't know. I can't, I
lower
don't
it
have
is,
any
the-
concept of visualizing
Well,
what that
the
means.
lower it is, the lower the thing has to be to shade it. The higher it is, the higher it has to be to
No,
shade it.
because you're talking about a long distance. So the thing is that even if it's 5 feet high, you're talking about shading over a long expanse. So you're not going to get the same shade. If you have 10 feet on a 5 foot high, you're not going to get the same shade over the entire area that you're going to get if you have 20 feet over it.
We're talking about the height of the solar panels,
I
being the height of the
understand
tree
that. I
around the
understand
solar
that.
panels.
So, but
I'm just saying it's
screen it.
relative to what's relative.
I know, but I think it's hard for us to visualize it. So, and I'm not sure that it's completely relative because you're talking about shading, casting over a long expanse, which is separate. It's just two completely separate things.
What I'm just saying is, first of all, I don't know what is needed from a developer's worth their while. Like if we're gonna develop a code that is undevelopable, and somebody couldn't build a solar farm,
And I don't think anybody's saying that. I think we're just
But I don't
asking
know.
for
I'm,
some
I'm
context.
asking the question. I don't know the answer.
I haven't
I'm
looked
just
into
saying,
it because I used the numbers
Yeah.
out of the model regs.
Yeah.
So I can look into it.
Yeah.
I've got access to people who are in the business.
Right.
I'll-
I
I'll
think
find
it's
out
just
the
for
That's all.
context.
I'm just saying I have no idea
understand what their needs are.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm just saying I think that the shading, it's in my opinion, whatever height it is, you want it to be shaded. Then the thing that is screening it has to be higher. If it's
And
15
David-
feet, you have to have a 20-foot screen. If it's 5 feet, you have to have a 10-foot screen. Whatever it is, you need the screening to be enough to shade to keep you from seeing it, right? That's what screening is about. So you're not going to see it.
I just think, like, for context, if there's, I don't know in the NYSERDA code if it's broken out by, things that you see on a highway versus
Right.
residential. So if
Right.
there's a difference,
That makes sense, right? Right. If there's like a house next to it, then
like I don't know if there's a residential standard versus a more
Commercial standard.
Well, they're
Open space
for their
standards.
residential low density category in the model regs, tier 3 would be allowed to be 15 feet in height. In the commercial, business, light industrial, heavy industrial, agricultural districts, it could be 20 feet in height. So I did something very similar to that.
okay.
Okay.
All right.
And a lot of our commercial districts are, like Donna said, near residential, so. I have a couple other questions. What are the thoughts of wetlands and solar panels? Can you place them on wetlands? Is that a no-no? Electricity, water bad?
I doubt, well, no, I mean, they are subject to all kinds of weather. So they're insulated pretty well, but I think we'd probably try to keep them out of the wetlands using our wetlands law.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand what areas could use and what areas couldn't.
Right.
And then do we know if they produce any radiant heat at all? Or anything like that? Kind of like a parking lot?
I can find out. I don't
I'm
really know.
just kind of interested to learn about that also, what that does to area.
Mhm.
That's a lot of my question.
no. What's all the section on page 14 that's crossed out? The New York State Unified Solar Permit. Can you remind me why that was all crossed out?
That's the New York State Uniform Permit that lets people bypass site plan approval, conditional use permit approval
For tier 1 and tier 2,
for
up to a maximum of 25 kilowatts.
maximum of 25 kilowatts or less. So that would basically take well,
I mean, again, I know that that's one of those things that has been recommended that we adopt is the New York State Unified Solar Permit. From not right, Westchester is not one of the isn't adopting the Unified Solar Permit.
Yeah, it was one of the clean energy community actions. Though I
Right.
do believe there's some training involved.
Don't we
in
have
it.
don't we have a streamlined permit currently
I don't
for solar,
think so.
David?
No, we don't have one now.
I thought we did.
No. And,
So what happened at with the planning board and all, when we went through the whole solarize process in Austining and suddenly everybody wanted solar panels on their house? There were lots of people coming before the planning board to do
no,
that?
no.
I thought
The
our
only
building
solar
department had it.
energy system that came before the planning board, to the best of my recollection, was for Wendy Messerman.
Oh, and also what about Terra Tile? Because Terra Tile did that,
Roof mounted.
roof mounted.
I don't believe that John Hamilton is, they wanted Wendy Messerman's facility.
That was a ground
was
mounted.
ground mounted.
Right.
And John brought that before the planning board. I don't believe he's brought any, I mean, now he might have to under the ARB regulations, but I don't believe he's previously brought any roof mounted systems to the planning board.
I mean, that's why I'm just curious why we would not have that.
I really thought we already had. I thought he had talked about having a streamlined permit for solar at one of our previous.
It might make sense to have the tier one.
For tier one
Well,
specifically.
tier one is just a building permit from John anyway, so this doesn't really help very much at all. Tier two would be subject to site plan approval,
Right.
and I believe that the town board, or at least
We have expressed interest in wanting that still to go before.
yes, before
Yep.
the planning board for site plan approval and
Right.
ARB approval.
Right. Right. Okay. As long as it's still just be for tier one, doesn't.
Right, tier one is just a building permit from John anyway.
Okay. Okay. In that case. That's not a big-
Are we up?
Yeah. Yeah, keep on.
We up to 15 now?
14, conflict, if any of the provisions of section, conflict, okay, that's on.
Right. John had pointed out that in that this is an accessory use, it would be subject to a variety of accessory use regulations in the zoning that don't apply to solar energy systems. So this basically says if there's any conflict, when it comes to solar energy systems, these
I
regulations
see.
control.
Got it.
And then on page 15, putting the tier 3 in the BB zone required the addition of number 10 there in the middle of the page.
Okay.
Nothing has changed on page 16.
What, are there any parcels in the GB zone that are
2 acres or more? Yes.
significantly more than 2 acres? Well,
I
well,
think the largest piece is the,
Executive Boulevard.
no, in the GB zone, I
Oh,
believe.
GB zone.
I believe the largest piece is, it's where they store garbage trucks,
Suburban?
suburban carting. Yeah,
That's one that Donna mentioned, which is like 4.6 acres.
yeah, something like that.
And it was my imagination, or when we heard from one of the comments from one of the developers, they were not even interested in anything that was talking about anything under
Yeah, they're really interested in much larger
larger.
parcels for much
parcels,
larger
right?
systems. Although,
I just don't- yeah.
again, the model regs talk about 2+ acre pieces.
Right. So I don't know if that's something that we want to consider, or just for, that would just be good for tier 2. In other words, tier 3 would have to be larger. That would be a way to limit it, right?
Although, you know what, I wouldn't hate seeing some of the larger parking lots have solar panels over them.
Wouldn't that be a tier 2? That'd be different.
It
Tier
would be a
2
different
is up
structure
to
over.
900 square feet, which is about 30 by 30, which is like the length of a parking space and half another space square.
Yeah, because I mean, one of the
Cleared impervious
things,
surfaces, I would love to see.
Yeah,
go
I mean,
over it.
the newest thing is just to put them almost like carports,
Right.
Yeah,
where you can put it over parking lots.
right, which I think would be great for our town.
I agree. That wouldn't be.
Those would be roof mounted.
They're not exactly.
We'd be
They're
building
actually a
to put
roof.
it on.
Yeah, you have to create.
We'd
Well,
build the
you have to
roof.
create. It's more like a ground mounted. You're creating a roof out of the solar panel. Solar panel becomes. It's not. I don't think you
I
have to
think it
mount
needs a
it.
sturdy structure to
And
be
wouldn't
on.
it be ground mounted?
That's what I'm saying. It's like a ground mounted panel that would go over that. The panel itself acts as the roof.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen them in school parking lots, Jersey, that took up the whole school parking lot. And why wouldn't you want that?
Yeah, see, now that sounds like something I happily go for. Already impervious, it's already cleared, life is good.
In fact, it's better because you can park your car
The shade.
Or get out of the snow. You don't actually have to plow as much. You don't have to, the sun melts the snow off the panels and
Feeling like there'd be some supports to deal with the plows, but yeah, okay, good. So
I don't know how we would.
I don't know how you'd word that or
work
look
that
into
in,
it,
but I think that it's
I can work it in.
okay. So back to the question of, in terms of acreage and, I mean, again, I think, the notion that it would, something that's added to a parking lot or a parking, structure, something like that, I think that's great.
Right.
But do we want these solar farms and, again, I don't know if that would even be feasible that somebody's going to come to us to do it because it might not be economically worth their while. But do we want to say only over 4 acres or something like that? I guess that's my question.
How do we determine what that number is? I guess would be my question.
I can look into that as well. I'll do that. I'll talk to
Okay.
the people.
Okay. In that case, anything else? Anybody about solar? Nope. I'm feeling like we're moving in the direction of liking this ultimately.
Yes, we're getting
And
there.
maybe coming up with some kind of limiting something.
Yeah,
with
we should talk
advice.
about that.
Okay. All right. In that case, might we have a motion to adjourn to executive session for advice of counsel?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed. So, as you can see, there's so much happening now. Fall is in full swing. Make sure you stop by the farmer's market because this is a great time to get some of that fresh local produce. Take the time to look on our website and at our update that we send out on Fridays for upcoming events in and around town. Make sure you look out for that Project Forward postcard coming your way in the next couple weeks and enjoy all that our community has to offer. We'll see you at 16 Croton Avenue next week for a work session, and I hope everyone has a wonderful week.